Does friendship really always win? Is a friendship breakup worse than a romantic relationship breakup? And can you make friends as an adult? That's right, today we're talking about your assumptions about friendship. And today we are joined by Gort.
Hello. We're clapping.
And our very special guest today, Yasmin Saeed, TikTok legend.
Let's go.
Yasmin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I guess I'm like a comedy content creator.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
also I do music and also an actor.
We met at Just for Laughs Comedy
Yes.
Festival in Montreal. You were one of the highlighted new face creators.
New face creators.
I thought they said nude face this whole time.
Yeah.
You thought it was nude face creators?
Yeah, we're like, wow, I like that one.
Yeah,
I like that one.
yeah, you win.
So that leads us to our first assumption, which says, it's so easy for dudes to be friends because they can bond and stay close by playing Call of Duty.
What?
Who said that?
Yeah.
Who said that?
Who said that? Reveal yourself.
I don't need meaningful conversation.
Yeah.
I got caught with my boy.
Yeah, I like when my boys are just screaming slurs with the sound of
Like, what the
gunshots
hell?
blaring in the background. No.
That doesn't sound healthy.
I played COD one time. And on the campaign mode only. I never played multiplayer.
did the story mode?
I never,
You
I never
I keep
played.
thinking of fish.
Codfish.
That's where my head's at.
Can make friends while you're fishing for cod.
Oh, can I?
Yeah.
Oh.
Young men are going fishing.
It's becoming a thing again.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've gone to a pier a couple times, like different ones like Santa Monica or Malibu, and there are young men in their 20s fishing with their bros.
Fishing's coming
gosh.
back in a big way.
I think it's really cute.
They went
Arasha's
from
boyfriend.
cod to cod.
Literally.
Let's go. Yes, pass it on. Yes. That is so funny.
Yeah,
Fish
so.
instead. Real friends are people that you don't need to be constantly stimulated by other stuff. You're able to sit in silence and...
I do think that those are some of my favorite kind of friendships where we could just do something casual, like, fishing, or like, something more on my level, like, doing a jigsaw puzzle or something. But like, where you're doing something while, like, a conversation can happen if it happens, but there's not pressure to always be on.
I agree. Because the
Yeah.
thing about that, they talk about male loneliness.
Yeah.
The issue is that they don't have friends who are like close enough to have like deep conversations. So like, I feel like that is probably a good example of why it's a problem, because it's like, no, you have to have a friend who you're able to talk to and you're able to like.
Who's
Yeah.
there for you at your
things.
lows. Yeah.
This next assumption says friendship breakups are worse than romantic relationship
Yes.
breakups. You think so?
100% agree.
I think they can be,
Yeah,
depending
definitely.
on how long that friendship was, what it meant to you.
Have you guys experienced friendship breakups?
Yes.
I've had friends that I had to like cut out of my life, and it feels like an ex. I'm trying to think of like explicit like we're done. I think, but I agree with it because it's like when you're finding your partner, your life partner, there's like standards and specific like substantial expectations of what you want in your life. But with friends, I feel like it's way more fluid. And so if you have to get to that point where you have to break up as friends, that's gotta be tough.
Yeah, if there's like a moment where you have to put your foot down and announce it, I've never had to do that. I mean, like, publicly, like Ian and I had a friendship that fizzled out, and then we were able to reignite that. But I haven't had any moment where I've had to be like, "You are done. You are out."
You're done?
Yeah.
Have you had to do that?
Yeah. It was like a really big fight. And it was like, without spilling too much detail,
Yeah.
it was
Right.
basically like something happened. I found out about it and I was telling her about what was happening, and I was not expecting the blow up. And then, so it was kind of like she was like berating me and like it's your, like, you should have known better, but like I didn't have anything to do with like the situation. And then I was kind of like, wait, like that didn't feel good. And then it was like
a learning moment.
yeah. And then it was like, we try to like, we talked about it, but then there was never like a full apology for it.
Yeah.
And that's when it matters
And it
more
was-
is how it's
yeah.
handled after the big catalyst.
Yeah,
Everything
exactly.
after.
So
People
it
will
was
make
like,
mistakes in the way they communicate, but if you can talk about it afterward and you could like set a better foot forward, that's what matters.
yeah, exactly. So it was like this weird kind of like back and forth, and like I like was like, hey, like this made me feel like really awful, and then she became like really defensive, and then
Yeah, and
she
that's-
eventually was like, she eventually was like apologize, and we kind of like shared our love for each other. But I don't know. Then after that, it was kind of
just never the same.
Yeah, just never the same. And like I still like have love for her. And I guess I was never like we're done. But I don't know. It just doesn't feel the same.
Yeah. Like the thing too is like with friends, if they treat you poorly like that, like they take their anger out on you when you had nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you allow that to happen, like especially if you have history and you're like, well, I know them, this isn't how they always are. Like that can then set the standard for them to think they can treat you like that.
Yeah, and I think it was, again, something like that where I was like, I don't want to be known for like, I don't want to be the punching bag every time like something bad happens.
No, it's those times when things get rough of where you really like learn each other, whether it's friends or in a relationship, and like how you guys get through that bad part. And you learn how you treat each other through bad parts.
Yeah.
I had this friend, we were friends for so long, but I just realized as we were getting older, it was becoming more toxic. Like as we were entering like womanhood and all these things where I was like, oh, this friendship is not, she's a bad friend, and also it's making me a bad person. Like I feel crazy. And so I had to just like eliminate this person from my life, and like, I still am like scared if I see them in public. It's
interesting.
Because they're just unpredictable and.
Oh, that's scary.
Yeah, so yeah, it's awkward when you feel like you can't have that conversation with somebody, that says a lot too,
Yeah.
Here's a spicy one.
I'm scared.
You should not be friends with your good friend's ex.
Ooh.
Oh, that is a spicy one.
That is a spicy one.
Okay. I think there's a lot of nuance to this.
There's a lot of nuance here.
Yeah.
Of course.
I don't think it can be this black and white.
Yeah, I agree, because I think there are multiple things. It's tricky because
it is complex.
If you're also best friends with that ex.
Like they were previously in your life as well too, kind of thing?
Or even if like
eventually?
Along the lines, you're kind of like you turn. And I feel like it's also gender-wise. Like, if like for me, if it's like a lesbian relationship that my friend was in, and then it's like, I feel like some people may think that's less of a taboo thing to be still friends with that ex versus straight relationships, or like you're still friends with the guy, like now are you like, is there something going on between, But then also if they broke up because they were a piece of shit.
I think that's a huge part of it, is why you broke up.
Yes.
If they were a complete piece of shit that disrespected you, it's kind of weird for your close friend to still be friends with them knowing that they disrespected you so horribly.
I agree.
But if it was like kind of a mutual thing that fizzled out and you realize you weren't right for each other, or they moved to a different I don't know. There's a million reasons where it's okay, and there's a million reasons why it's not okay, I think.
Yes.
Big time. I think it's also like the level of being friends. Of like, what do you mean? Like, are you getting coffee with them every week? Or like, or is it just that you guys still follow each other on Instagram? Like,
I think it depends on if you hate your ex. If you're okay with your friend being
and are
friends
your
with
friends
them.
on a united front?
Yeah.
Because I love the feeling of like, yeah, he did suck. I'm unfollowing them. And I'm like, they're done.
Yeah, and that's so dependent on what they did and how things ended. But I definitely have friends who became friends with people I was dating, and then after that person I stopped talking, my friend would still hang out with them, and it didn't feel weird to me.
At the end of the day, if it doesn't feel weird to you, then there you go.
Yeah.
This episode of Assumptions is brought to you by Stitch Fix. Listen, I've spent way too many hours scrolling websites trying to find the perfect outfit. It can be overwhelming with all the different brands and choices, or you find something that you really love and then it's out of stock. It can be so frustrating. I actually, true story, spent last night looking at a million different types of pants, all for them to be like $500. Anyway, at the end of the day, you just want to feel good, and this is why I use Stitch Fix. It ships right to your door with a box filled with items that are perfect for you. I took a style quiz, which included my size, my vibe, and my budget. Stitch Fix sends you a fix box with clothes that actually fit and make sense for your daily life. You can try it on in the comfort of your own home and keep what you like. Love it! And the items that aren't clicking with you can send back for free with free shipping. Stitch Fix now offers themed boxes too, like maybe you need a date night fix or a fall layered fix or a casual cool fix. Get started today at stitchfix.com/assumptions to get $20 off your first order. And they'll waive your styling fee. That's stitchfix.com/assumptions. Well, let's get back to hearing those assumptions.
If you're in a heterosexual relationship, you shouldn't have close friends of the opposite gender.
No.
What? This is so silly.
Who put that in your brain?
I don't know. This is so
yeah.
normal, but I think it's so silly in my opinion.
I think it's silly too.
It's silly. It's so interesting and common when you see that. I think it's controlling.
I think it's
Like,
controlling.
yeah.
It's very closed-minded.
Yeah.
You're cutting off someone's like life when you're not allowing your partner to have friends that are opposite gender. And it's like, what trust issues do you have that they can't even be like in the same dynamic
Yeah.
as someone? Like,
Yeah.
I just see this, and this is me being assuming. And good thing we're on the show assumptions, because when I hear this assumption, I assume that the person who made this assumption is a man, is a dude, and it's like that. Okay, well, if you view that I'm getting tangled up and overwhelmed by my own perception of like,
Yeah.
like so you as the poster are incapable of being friends with the opposite gender.
funny.
You're
I don't know.
you're self-reporting.
I assume this was a woman who
I
like
kinda
had been
saw that
told this her
too.
whole life.
Yeah, that also. It's like that's why I
Yeah.
said when you first said it, I was like, who put that in your brain?
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't be like that. I'd be like, if you're friends. And also, I feel like you could go off of good judgment to know when your partner is getting too friendly with their
Yeah.
close friend of the opposite sex. So like for me, I wouldn't be like, you can't be friends with women because like
Yeah.
that's weird. Like
Yeah.
you can't help who you're friends with.
Yeah.
But then, because I feel like I have a good eye for this, you can, as time goes on, you can notice if they're being like, if there's like some flirty thing going on. But again, that's
That
just
raises
like,
a whole like slew of questions about how much can you trust them. then,
yeah, no,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, like speaking, like I have like two like male, like really, really close friends. We had a conversation about this actually. He was like, if you ever get into a relationship, he didn't say it like that.
If you ever get into a relationship,
consider this over. But like when you get like start seeing someone, will you ever like not talk to us as much?
oh
Yeah. And then I was like, no. And he was
Right.
like, really? And I was like, yeah, because like you guys are my friends. Like I'm not
Yeah.
gonna ditch you guys for another
Yeah.
person.
So someone I was dating in the past, we were like 3 years deep into this relationship. We're 3 deep, 6, 7 deep. But we were like 3 years deep into this relationship, and she was like, I kind of want to like hang out with like some of my friends, like maybe go on a trip with them. And she was mostly friends with guys. And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. I was like, that's fine. And she was like, really? I was like, yeah. She was like, oh, that was just something I just stopped doing. I was like, why? She was like, I just assumed it. She was like, I just assumed it like wasn't gonna be cool because in all my past relationships it wasn't cool. And I was like, that's totally fine.
It's really
Like,
sad.
yeah, and it was sad because I realized that she had been like suppressing like,
Friendships.
friendships because she thought she was
Yeah.
supposed to. So I think this is like, while I think it's a super silly thing to believe, I think it's so common to believe this. It's kind of the norm in many ways. And I think a lot of it has to do with insecurity in a relationship. Like if I'm so insecure that a woman I'm dating, that I won't allow her to be friends with men, that's an issue with me.
Yeah.
Or maybe an issue with the way that I see that I trust her. You know,
Right,
that's
yeah.
that's a bigger issue that probably has something to do more with something internal.
Yeah.
Something internal or just something you were taught. You
Or
never
something
know.
you were taught. Yeah, there's
I-
just beliefs.
I will just say, I've had a friend where like they're cool hanging out with me, they're a guy, and then once they got in this one relationship, I just like, they just stopped coming to things and stuff, and I was just like, because as someone who's in a relationship, I was happy with them. I want to just be with my partner all the time, but I still am like, I need to make a point to be outside of that, so I'm not just in this vacuum of one person being my only emotional support.
So I understand when people are happy with each other and just want to be with each other, but it's like, I notice when it's like, hey, like, where are you?
I like having my partner be involved with my friend group.
Yeah.
Like you need to see your partner or that person you're dating with other people.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. Like,
For
are you going to
sure.
be weird? Like,
Think your friends
can
will get the
you-
vibe check.
Yeah. Are you also funny? Can you pick up our bits?
Yeah, can you keep up with our humor?
Yeah.
Let's see.
yeah. I was thinking, I think it's also important in relationships when you do hang out in a friend setting to not be like, we're a couple, but like to be individual people.
I agree.
And for so much of my life, I was like, I'm a couple. And like my identity was in couple that recently as I've been dating, it's like I will hang out with this person with a group of friends, and we'll just be like individual people all hanging out in a group, and it's it's a very nice feeling that took me way too long to realize I needed in my life. Yeah.
Hey, good on you. Better late than never.
Thanks, guys. Frankly, I have no idea how people make friends outside of school or work.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that's really tough because throughout your whole life, you make friends at school. Like, I feel like I made all my friends in school. Ian and I, we started SMOSH together. We met in 6th grade. And then so you have to relearn how to make friendships as an adult. Once you
outside of those things,
are done with school.
Well, school is also a very controlled environment for forced proximity.
Yeah.
So when you see someone every day, it kind of naturally happens.
Yeah.
Versus when you're outside of that and maybe you work from home or work in an office, it's kind of like you have to be more, I don't know, intentional with the people you want to make friends with.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a non-creator job?
Yes.
Service industry?
Oh God, so many. I was a takeout person and I wasn't that good. I wanted to be a waiter so badly. And then I worked at a skincare warehouse.
Cool.
Was it? It was a very toxic environment.
Dang.
But I know it sucks. But that was when I started getting on TikTok, and that's when I started making my own videos. And I was able to leave such toxic environments. Yeah.
Did you ever have work besties?
I did. I got really close with one woman who looked my age, but she was 8 years older than me, and she full on had a kid. But she was so cool, and we would always chat and stuff.
Yeah.
And then my best friend actually gave me the job. So we had our little connection too. And also I feel when the office, when an office environment is toxic, you gotta have your alliances.
Yes.
So we had our little group of debriefs and if our boss did something crazy, we would look at each other and be we'll talk during lunch. Yeah.
I feel work, I made unlikely friends. I was fully so close, and I had so many yap sessions with this full-on mom who I was closer in age to her kids than her, but we were besties at work. It's so interesting.
Work kind of blurs the line of age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just don't, I don't know. I noticed that you don't notice people's age
for sure.
It's
when you're working with them.
It's kind of cool.
It
Do
is.
you feel like any of those friendships lasted, or were they more matters of convenience?
Ooh, I think it was more matters of convenience.
Yeah.
But, so I followed the friend who was older than me on Instagram, and she would just post stories, and I would comment. And so so it wasn't super tight and close, but I don't know. I like seeing
friend.
I like seeing their accomplishments and being oh my gosh, congrats.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing good. And
I love that.
Yeah, just super, super nice.
I realize that friendships that are meaningful and will last are the ones where you don't just interact out of convenience. Out of being in the same area.
Yeah.
You're we go to the same school. I was even talking to my mom. She was I moved out of this apartment complex, and I thought that I had some really close friends there, but we don't connect anymore.
Oh, because you're just,
Because it was just a matter of convenience. I'm the real friends are the ones where you have to make the plan to show up, and you both are willing to go out of your way to make that happen.
And that's important because you start to realize okay, I only see you when we're working or we live in the same area like your mom, in passing. And then I feel the real test is being oh, let's do something outside of what we normally do. And then that's when you see how far or how real the friendship is.
Yeah, and the ultimate test, can you hang out sober?
True. I forgot about that.
Oh, I never even thought of that.
True.
I also would like to add, can you just sit in silence?
That's true too.
yeah.
That's how you know you're comfortable. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can tell when someone. Sometimes I allow it to get quiet to be hey, we're chill, right? But sometimes I could feel there's a nervous energy that comes up from the people I'm with. They're so anyway, and they're they want to fill the silence.
Yeah.
Speaking of filling the silence, actually, I don't know if this is a good transition into this.
I love that you took a swing.
Well, let's see. Maybe it works.
Yes,
okay.
He just farts.
Real friendship means being able to FaceTime each other out of the blue.
Okay, are you a FaceTimer?
No,
He's on FaceTime?
I'm different.
Yeah.
I personally, it doesn't matter if you're my friend or a relative, I don't like out of the blue calls or FaceTimes.
At all?
It's like
At
a jump
all.
scare.
At
It's like a jump scare. Sometimes I'm like, I'm not in my element, and I'm kind of like, why are you calling me? And it's like, I don't know. Like, it's just for me, like I'd like the heads up of like, hey, can I call you in like right now or like in 2 minutes? Then I'd be like, oh, okay. Unless it's an emergency.
well?
Yeah.
I relate to that, especially when it's like when my family calls me out of the blue, I have to answer because like one time
For sure.
when you miss the call, I've had that happen before where you miss the call and you go, damn, I wish I hadn't missed that call.
Yeah.
Nobody died.
I was like, okay,
But I know
what's
what you
the
mean.
next?
But it's like,
Yeah.
I wish I'd been there to answer. So I do love a text of like, hey, can I call you about this? I just feel like it's always a bit. When a friend cold FaceTimes me, I'm like, you're about to mess with me. or
You're like, you're on
something.
camera right now, aren't you?
what are we doing?
Like, this is a YouTube video,
I'm
right?
really cooked, aren't I?
Yeah.
With YouTube. But I relate though.
I used to not like it at all. I used to like want the heads up. I used to want to be able to prepare mentally, like know that I'm carving out this time to talk to this person. But there's something so nice about someone just FaceTiming you and you only talk for like 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
Is it like a relationship thing? Like,
Totally.
is that something where you appreciate it more because it's coming from a significant other?
I mean, definitely that's definitely really nice. But also if a friend calls, I don't know if they FaceTime me out of nowhere, I might assume there's something was wrong or I'm getting pranked. You're right.
But do you
Yeah.
have any friends that just like to call people?
Yes.
Doesn't Olivia call people FaceTime them out of the blue all the time?
Olivia's constantly calling people. I think there are people like because I have a best friend's boyfriend who's also a close friend. He just cold calls buddies all day.
Yeah.
He's like, hey, how's it going? Like he's just one of those folks. I don't know.
Yeah. I kind of like it though when it becomes so
It's sweet.
casual.
I know.
That you could just like pop in and say, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm good. Cool. What are you up to? Cool. All right. Thinking about you. So that was it though. So, bye.
I think it's the expectation that we're always accessible
That's true too. Yeah.
and like always available because of our phones.
I think as long as the person that FaceTimes you out of the blue is cool with you not picking up sometimes or most of the time.
Yeah.
But the significant other thing, I think, like when Shane, like I'm like, yeah, I'm calling. Let's do this.
Let's do this. We're locked in.
Like it's like when you're like waiting for like if I'm like talking to someone and I get like a call out of the blue, I'm like, like little butterflies. But if it's like if it's like a relative, I'm like, what happened?
Yeah.
Or if it's like a friend, I'm like, what happened? I don't know. I guess I'm always like my nervous system's racked too. So maybe it's
I
just
feel that.
like I'm always scared
And
of
that
something.
was definitely a thing for a while. Like my mom would only call me out of the blue if like something was a little bit like urgent or like she needed to get a hold of me. And then she would always prep me before like a normal casual call. And I was like, you could just call me out of the blue sometimes to normalize that. Because anytime you call me out of the blue, because it's not normalized, I have anxiety.
Yeah.
So I'm like, let's normalize this a little bit.
Exposure therapy.
Yeah, it's good. I like it.
Yeah.
I like when my parents call me out of the blue.
Parents
And
are not your
sometimes-
friends, Anthony. We're
Oh.
talking about friends.
You're right.
Yeah, must be nice.
All right. You can't throw around the term best friends all willy-nilly.
I've learned that.
Do you think people throw that around,
interesting.
that term around too much?
I used to throw it around.
Yeah.
I used to throw it around a lot in high school, and one of my best friends called me out on it.
Because you have
And
too
that's
many
a good
best friends?
friend.
Yeah, well,
Or was it because they were like, I thought I was your best friend?
I've gotten that as an adult, but as a high schooler, I was a little bit more extroverted.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, yeah, that's my best friend, and that's my best friend, and like I guess she's considered my best friend.
Yeah.
She's like, not everyone can be your best friend, and I was like, so I actually took that advice. And I don't know, I feel like there are layers to it because I think you can have a best friend in different aspects of your life.
Yes.
That's true.
No, that's so
true.
real. Like you have a best friend at work,
Yeah.
best friend at home,
Yeah.
best friend at the gym. Maybe not the gym, but, but
maybe.
I don't know.
I'd like to know what you guys consider best friend.
Yeah. That's
Like, is there a definition? Like, or is it just a feeling? You're like, oh, I love to be around them. It's
I think it's a feeling. I think it's a level of trust
and seeing each other
and seeing each other. I think that's
like emotionally.
yeah.
I think I've processed this a lot in therapy because I've struggled with friendship and maintaining it and showing up for people and who I choose to trust. And like, I realized, like my therapist was like, who do you truly, like what do you visualize as someone who truly loves you, who's truly your best friend? I think it's like someone who sees you and doesn't read between the lines of what you're saying
Yeah.
and doesn't judge you when you're like able to just be so you and talk about things and like
yeah.
like I have issues with like believing it when people say they like me or that they love me. It's like when you believe it, like Amanda is one of those people for me where it's like fully trust. And then I have my friend since I was like 13, 14, Bree, who like, I'm like, I don't know, maybe I do this sometimes. And she's like, no, and you're allowed to do that because this happened to you and this happened to you. And she's like, she sees me.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a good point.
Yeah, people like that who see you, understand you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like people, you feel like there's no walls between you and them. Yeah, and that you could be entirely yourself.
And fart around them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought you were like this.
Yeah. It's like rips one.
Do you fart around all your best friends?
Oh, no. No, that was fully the lie of it. No, I don't. No, actually, around no.
You have no best friends.
No, I really don't. I don't have best friend. Help.
I honestly don't think I'm farting around people either.
Have you
It's
farted
just,
around
it's
best
just
friend?
not my thing.
Yeah, but it's always on accident.
Yeah, it's like a surprise. You're like,
It's always like, I try to hold it in, and then I'm like, I'm sorry.
I'm
we have to apologize for farting. That is not your
Like,
best
I just
friend.
get so gassy, and then like sometimes I'll try to hold it, and then I'd like laugh, and I'd be like,
We're getting down to it. That's awesome.
It's the best when it comes out in rhythm with your laugh.
yeah.
Oh my God,
Like,
Anthony.
I try to time it with my laugh.
You're like, if I laugh loud enough, they won't know. How many times have you farted right now?
Over it.
You farted 3 times right now, let's be honest.
No, don't do that.
I did, okay? It was me. It was
Don't
me.
the leg shake.
It was me.
Yeah, guys.
Must move
Okay,
on.
we're moving on. Next up, we have just because I'm bad at texting doesn't mean I'm a bad friend, with a very sad emoji.
Aw, I feel that.
But what is
Are
like
you
bad at texting?
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, are you a good
No.
texter?
No, but like, I'm getting defensive.
No.
I'm like, well, wait, no.
No.
Why'd you say that?
Who told you?
I'm so hot and cold, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is bad texting? I hear people say like, "Oh, I'm bad at texting." Does that mean that I don't reply fast enough, or
That's the
Or
thing.
at all.
It's like,
At all?
well, at least for me, bad at texting is like, if someone texts me and like I get overwhelmed really easily,
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, I'll just like text them in like the next few minutes, and then I forget.
That's fair? Yeah.
And then, but I always remember, and I'm always like, I'm so sorry. Like,
yeah.
I like just, I don't know. It's like, it's hard because people who know me understand.
Yeah.
But then it's like, I think
Sure.
dating's a little different
Right.
of a story.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all over the place. Like if you catch me at the right time, or if it's something that's like a low stakes discussion, we're back and forth.
I'm the same way.
yeah, you'll see my ... It's like we're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there'll be like, if it's like, hey, what are you doing on the week of this for? And I'm like, I can't.
Because
Yeah.
I'm also like, oh, I gotta like let me check my schedule and make sure I'm free. Because I don't want to be like, oh, yes, and then the time gets closer, and then I'm like, oh wait, no.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah. I'm very stringent on marking things as unread if I know that I need to get back to them, and I
Yeah,
haven't
they have
gotten
that on
back to them.
texting now.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
And you
don't
can
use
mark
it,
as
but-
unread. You don't use that?
I don't, because I'm just making myself anxious. I don't want.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
want the
Oh my
badge of the
God.
numbers there.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I know lots of people who are not good texters, but I get to see them a lot in person, so it doesn't
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
But I think that's like, yeah, if you're a bad texter and we don't see each other, then that's it.
Yeah.
And someone else said sending memes, videos, or TikToks are valid forms of communication with your besties.
I think
it
so.
shows you're thinking about them.
I do agree with that.
Yeah, I'm not just sending like, this is funny, I'm gonna send to this person. It's like, oh, this one made me think of this
Yeah.
person.
It's always
I'm sending
curated.
it to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always think it's cute when someone sends me something, even if there's no context. I'm like, oh, I know that you like. I know why you thought I would like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, where it's like, oh, for me, it's like, oh, a spicy ramen meme. Yes.
Yeah. You know me.
No, but I relate on like I feel bad because I do the same thing where I'll get overwhelmed and distracted, and then I forget about it. But it's like,
Yeah.
no, but I just want you to know I forgot to text you back, but like I think about you like all the time. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's that expectation that you're accessible.
It's the expectation element of it. I have friends as well where like sometimes I'll text them something and they don't reply for weeks, and then they'll send me something.
Yeah.
Like unrelated topic, and then I'll forget to respond to them. And I kind of like that there's no expectations in that friendship.
Yeah.
That's nice too, yeah.
I think I used to put like an expectation in my head, like this is a friend and this is how friends behave, and now this is how we must interact if we want to maintain this. But there's something nice about a very low expectation friendship where it's like, we'll just kind of go with the flow of where we are.
And I think that like ties into the conversation of adult friendship where you get busier. So like you kind of have to like, or at least in my experience, get looser on expectations of like.
Like it's not middle school where all you have in life is school and basketball practice.
And then
exactly.
And then it's like there's outside stress. So it's like,
I feel like my definition of friendships has evolved as well, where it's like, it's not about how often we're connecting, it's about how meaningful the connections are when we do have them. And do we remain friendly and respectful in that time, you know?
Give us another one, Anthony.
People are too quick to cut friends out of their lives these days. And they said the whole you don't owe people anything mentality has destroyed modern friendships.
I do agree with that.
I think I agree too. I think Reddit, like places like Reddit, and the conversation culture around cutting people out is so like rampant right now. I think there are reasons to cut people out, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
As somebody who has had to cut people out of my life, I guess.
Yeah, but it's different. I think that people are now getting in this mindset of like, you see one red flag, no matter what your history is, no matter like, you don't communicate it, you just cut them out. It's like always communicate things, and based on how they respond, that's when you decide if you need to cut them out.
Yeah, and it's just a very individualistic like way of thinking of like, and like it just lacks like that community building aspect, like society wise. I know I'm like throwing out buzzwords, but hear me out. Because you have to remember people have their flaws, and like nobody's perfect. So it's like you have to see past that, and then you have to like be willing to make that effort into the communication or making that connection or understanding where they're coming from. And then it's like, I feel like there are certain things where it's like super extreme and like valid to cut someone off super fast. But like I have noticed there's a big topic of like, you don't owe people anything. And it's
so
like,
you can cut them out immediately. But then that also is like, you're begging for that to happen, because if you think, oh, I don't owe anyone anything and I can just cut anyone out of my life at any moment, it's like, of course, you're going to be attracting people who also think they don't owe anyone anything and they're treating you poorly.
For sure. Like if you are expecting a certain type of respect from other people or those people, you owe them that same respect. I saw this really great video of this girl being like, hey, we need to normalize like doing things we don't want to do for people we love in life. So it's like, yeah, you're tired, but your close friend is having a birthday party. You don't necessarily want to go, but just like normalize, bring back like showing up for people.
That's true.
I do agree with that.
Yeah, even when it's not convenient for you. Like, yeah, we don't owe anybody anything because you are your own body and your own person. But if you want grace given to you when you have mistakes, because you will have mistakes and flaws, you have to give that to the other person too.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
And I think people are like, oh, I've given so much of myself to people for so long and I never get anything back, so I'm not doing anything I don't want to do anymore. And like, that's one way to go about living your life.
You're gonna be very lonely.
But you're gonna be very lonely. And you don't do it for them to do it back to you, but it just naturally happens when you become comfortable enough with someone where it's like we both show up for each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can finally like fart in front of each other and like
Or anyone.
fart in front of anybody.
One person shouldn't have to initiate every time to keep the friendship alive, whether it be hangouts or just conversations.
Yeah. I do agree with that.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever had a friendship where you're like, let's see what happens if I stop pulling all the weight of the
Oh,
friendship?
yeah.
Do you guys feel like you're usually the ones initiating hangouts or offers to hang out with people?
I'm typically the initiator, but I mean, I think the friendships where I'm the only initiator have like ended, and now it's very mutual back and forth.
Nice.
Like, and I think like what you just said, it would be like I would notice that this person's super busy, but because we're so close, if I notice that I'm the person initiating the hangouts, I'm like it doesn't.
It's no hard feeling.
Yeah. It's just kind of like
because it's already the relationship's already kind of proven itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, here's my weird take.
Okay.
I love birthdays because it's an excuse that I can get everybody to hang out with me or get people to hang out with me.
Oh, I love that.
Because it's like an occasion and it's a reason.
Yeah.
Time is hot real estate. Like you're saying currency.
Yeah.
Like, so I feel weird like asking people to hang out on a Friday. I'm like, that's hot real estate. I feel I don't know if I'm the friend that you want to be spending that day with, but like I love an idea. Like are you type A? Do you like planning?
So I like planning, but not always.
Yeah. Like you're like laid back, you don't need things to be going a specific way.
Yeah. It's like I guess I would say I like having an outline, but I'm okay with not being like totally on schedule.
I feel so overwhelmed on things like events like birthdays. I just do not invite people to hang out with me on my birthday because I feel so overwhelmed by it needing to be about me that I just don't do it at all.
No, literally dream scenario.
Yeah.
I literally want to make a birthday invite where it's like, everybody come to my birthday, but the theme of the birthday is pretend it's not my birthday. And do not perceive me because like...
It's our party.
Yeah, it's just a party. Yeah, but it's like the birthday is the reason people say yes, you know?
Yeah.
Next assumption says, if you're gonna cancel on our plans, please give me a heads up a couple hours before. I can't do another last minute cancellation.
Yeah.
I do agree with that.
Yeah.
Super
I
last
agree.
minute's tough. I think day of is good. I mean,
I agree with that.
at the latest. Couple hours is probably, that's the limit, I think.
Yeah, and that's,
for sure.
I feel like even that's cutting it.
Yeah,
close.
because I'm going to be I'm doing the skincare routine.
I know.
I've
like,
carved out
makeup's-
my day.
Yeah,
You
my
Yeah.
makeup's halfway done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This assumption says, if we're good friends, we can reconnect anytime, no matter how much time has passed. I can't stand people who act weird if we haven't talked for a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
do
I agree.
with that.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Everyone deserves a friend like that.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
like high school friends. I still like, we just like randomly text each other
Yeah.
after months of not talking.
Yes. Yeah, that's totally the same. And when you see them in person, it's like, all right, how's it going?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like
I
no
love
time has
that.
passed.
Ian and my high school friend, Ryan, he was the one that actually was like messed up in saying mosh pit and said smosh. And he's the reason that I was like, it became an inside joke with our group of friends.
And then became the name
became
of
the
the
name of
company.
this.
Oh my gosh.
But he was like driving through town and it was just like a super quick thing where he gave him a tour of the office. And I was like, damn, it felt like no time has passed. You feel like the exact same chill dude. Like, it was great. I love
so
friends like that.
nice.
Yeah, and it had been 10 years the last time I saw him was at the Smosh the movie premiere.
Whoa.
Yeah. If nearly all your conversations with a friend are rants about life or venting about your problems, they're not your friend anymore. They're your unpaid therapist.
I do kind of agree with that.
Yeah?
I do.
Unpaid therapist is so funny. I agree that like the real friends are the ones that you can like talk about ideas and like all kinds of things, not just venting and complaining, talking about people.
Yeah.
I think it also depends if it feels reciprocal. Are you both supporting
Yeah.
each other
Yeah.
in these issues
Yeah.
that you have in your life? Or does it feel like you're always just supporting them and saying, it's okay, I get it, while they're telling you all their issues?
And it's like, as the person who is like being ranted to, it's draining. Like, I feel like it's a bit selfish to be like always calling one friend just to rant about everything and anything.
Yeah.
And like, that's all you want to talk about. And then expect them to always be there for you or like, I don't
to take
know.
that on,
Yeah.
Yeah, because I do have a therapist to just do that. Never done ranting though. I still need to go rant to my friends also.
For sure.
But like,
Yeah.
it's something I've tried to be more conscious of as an adult, maybe because I was pretty bad at steamrolling when I was younger. But like making sure that, they just gave me a lot of time to talk about myself. Like now it's their time to talk about themselves.
I feel like subconsciously I'm always clocking how much I'm taking up the conversation. I don't know if that's healthy.
Editing your friendship.
Kind of. I don't know if that's
editing
healthy.
in real time.
But also I'm like trying to make sure I give them opportunities to speak. And I feel weird if I'm like, I just took over that whole conversation. But I'm trying to get better at it because whenever I tell my friends, I just took over that whole conversation, they're like, what?
Yeah.
I didn't even notice that. But I do appreciate when a friend reaches out and they don't always lean on me, but like they need assistance. And especially like with men, like men don't typically they don't like call their friend after a breakup. I just feel like that's not something men usually do with each other.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that. I had a friend recently, a guy call me after a breakup and it was nice to support someone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
it was nice. It was
More
nice.
of that.
More of that. Yeah, and guys definitely usually are just like, I gotta do this on my own. You know?
Or like you find out a year later or something.
Yeah.
And you're like, what happened? They're like, oh no.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Going back to this assumption, I feel like if you have a friend who is constantly complaining, you know, like less from like, here's some issues I'm going through. What do you think? I think that's maybe more acceptable than just complaining.
Sometimes you just want a place to talk about it. You don't want your person
For
to come at
sure.
you with, well, you should just do this then. And you're like, "Ugh, I'm not ready to deal with that.
Yeah,
right now,
but I guess I'm talking more as like someone who's like, it's like always the same problem.
Yeah, it's like a
Yeah.
consistent
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
You're like, so this is the 20th time you told me this problem.
Yeah, I'm like-
have you tried this?
And they're like, whoa. And we're like, okay.
No.
Yeah.
Me and Shane have this joke of like when we find ourselves in like a complaining loop, be like, careful, you're gonna get stuck like that.
It's like how parents would be like, if you cross your eyes, you're gonna get
You're gonna get stuck like that. Yeah.
Yeah. If you masturbate, you're gonna get hair on your palms.
What?
You didn't hear that one growing up?
No.
We got some head nods in the room.
What?
I didn't make that up. People would
Hair
say
on your what?
grow hair on your palms. That's why my hands are clean as a babe. Hairless is what I was trying to say.
Wait.
Anyway, do you guys have any assumptions about friendships?
Ooh.
Let's talk about the hairy palms again.
No! We're done.
Assumptions about friendship?
Do we have our
Yeah.
own?
You can't travel with any friend.
Oh, you think there's only a select
You think
few
traveling
friends?
with friends is tough?
Yeah.
Oh, like you have a friend that you can travel well with.
Yes, like not every friend you have is a good travel friend.
No, that's a good one.
Yeah. Traveling is already so stressful.
Yeah, that is so true.
Yeah.
And especially when the more friends involved, the more difficult it
Oh
gets.
my gosh, yeah.
Me and Shane had like this group of friends that we went on this very long, it was a lot of traveling. And it went so well, and we like learned. We're like, oh my God,
We travel well together.
Yes.
Let's do this again because it is a treat, a rare treat.
It
And what do you think?
really
What do you
is.
think worked so well about it? Everyone was down to go with the flow, or what do you think it was?
It's like there was a good balance of one person was ready to be type A and say, let's go do this. And everyone was like, sure. And then being like, hey, I have this idea. And like, just organized, but also laid back. Like,
Yeah.
you know? And like also it's like, oh, there's no reason to complain because at the end of the day, we're able to do this and it's a vacation.
my friendship assumption. I just realized something I've started to learn is not necessarily true. I used to think that you had to have a deep conversation and connection with someone for it to be real friends. I didn't realize, and I'm realizing lately, like I can have friends where it's like, oh, we just go do this thing together, and we just like each other's company. It's not about like, how was your life? What revelations have you had? Have you processed that trauma from your childhood? How's that going? Like, it doesn't always need to be that. It could be like, oh, we're just gonna play games. It
Yeah.
could be something chill like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know each other's traumas all
Not
through
always.
and through.
Like it's nice sometimes to be like, oh, we're real and we have all these complex emotions going on, but sometimes it's just so nice to just chill.
Yeah.
Yes, and at the end of the day, you are your own best
Slices.
friend, so be
know
kind
what?
to
Yeah.
yourself.
That is a takeaway here. Be your own best friend first so you can show up as the best friend that the people in your life deserve.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yasmin, where can we find you? Where can we find you on the interwebs?
Oh my gosh, you can find me on TikTok at Lady Yasmina1. You can find me on YouTube at Lady Yasmina. And you can find me on Instagram, Yasmin_Saeed.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so you can find me all over the
Check
place.
Yasmin out. She's so funny.
Oh my gosh.
Check
You
her
guys are
out.
so sweet. I appreciate it.
And we'll see you next time.